Hey all, welcome to ShareTreck. This is Raj here. And friends, this is the much awaited part 3 of the 3-part Celebrating Innovation mini-series. Today I want to talk to you about storage. Who has not run out of data storage before? All of us have had that problem either at work or at home. We have come up with many solutions. For portability, we have high-capacity thumb drives and solid-state removable storage devices. They are quite handy at this point of time. We also have data centers storing loads of data, and now we also have the cloud. Though data storage is mostly free for most retail users to a very good extent, and there is plenty of data that's being stored and not accessed. According to some reports, I believe Facebook has got data out of which 90% has not been accessed by its users for a long time. However, you can't discard the data. You have to keep it there for any time that the person may want to access it. So we are now going to run into a problem that we won't have the physical storage available to store all the redundant data that may or may not be needed someday in the future. So in today's show, we are going to talk about an incredible new approach that promises to do a lot more, not only in terms of high capacity and low volume, but other exciting possibilities when it comes to data storage. So let's get started. Welcome back, friends. Did you know that the human genome contains 750 MB of data in 2 strands? It contains 30,000 genes, and the real human genome is 6.4 billion letters long when we look at a base pair. Now that's the size of the DNA and the data stored, and it's stored in an incredibly small space, so it's a highly dense storage medium. In our binary system that we currently use, we have 2 symbols, ones and zeros. Whereas in the DNA system, we have 4 letters, that is A, C, T, and G. Therefore, in a DNA system, we can have more than 4 times the unique combinations as compared to the binary system. This means high capacity to create addresses and as well as to store data. The DNA does not need electricity to stay in a state. It's dense and durable. In fact, DNA is at least 1,000-fold more dense than a compact solid-state hard drive, and hence it can store 1,000 times more data. The only thing preventing DNA being a storage system today is the prohibitive cost of chemically synthesizing DNA. Some estimates put it close to $3,400 per megabyte of information, and that's mighty expensive. The Wyss Institute is working on coming up with an enzymatic approach to DNA synthesis that is likely to reduce the costs significantly. We still don't have the solution, but once we get such a solution, then it will reduce the cost barrier and enable uptake.
What is data and what is the cloud? This is a photo of the Facebook data center. It's about 1 million square meters, about $1 billion to construct, and it holds all of your data. Yet 90% of the data is never accessed. This is what we have learned from Facebook, from Dropbox, and from a number of studies. By using storage at this rate, by 2025, we'll run into at least 2 problems. There will be more data generated than the amount of silicon that can be used for memory being mined. And second, data centers will take about 20% of the global world electricity production. So clearly, we need to do something else. DNA is incredibly dense, it's easy to replicate, and it's something that we will read forever as long as we have access to a DNA sequencer. The world's largest, most advanced USB drives store about 1 terabyte of storage. Now, if you take the calculation of how much DNA is in your biological thumb, you can get 100 million times that storage, and that's something that we can read at any point. We're not the first to think about this idea. Many others have tried this, and they've demonstrated that any sort of bits can be easily converted into DNA and recovered. But there's one critical problem of cost. Microsoft will have announced a gigabyte of storage in DNA, and at a list price of $3,500 per megabyte, you can guess how much they've spent just to buy this material.
The reason we are all talking about DNA storage is twofold. First, we may not have the physical space to store data in future, and second, we may not have sufficient silicon to create storage devices. This is especially true as our operating systems and software get more sophisticated and complex. They tend to grow bulky. I remember the early days when I started my career. At that time, we had the DOS operating system, and we had something called as a PC, and then we had PC-XT, which was a slight advance, and then we had a PC-80. I think the difference was that the PC did not have a hard disk, and you used a floppy, and the DOS operating system, DOS was the disk operating system, short form was DOS. It came from Microsoft, and you had the disk that you inserted into what was called as a floppy drive, and the computer will boot up and you are ready to work. So the operating system used to be in a floppy. Now the operating system that we use needs a separate partition in your hard drive in order to work, and it needs a whole lot of memory, and memory again is coming through silicon. So the need for silicon is very high, not only in creating integrated circuit chips, but also memory, and also for storing data in a compact form. And that's the reason why silicon is likely to be a big constraint going forward. And now coming to the nature of the operating system itself. Earlier, we just had a green screen operating system. Now, the operating system consists of graphic user interface. It has voice recognition, facial recognition, and a whole host of technologies that bulk up the software and the storage needs. In the commercial world, we have Microsoft, which disclosed details about their DNA storage system in the late 2020s. At the 2020 Ignite conference, Microsoft Azure Chief Technical Officer Mark Russinovich showed off working prototypes for data storage systems based on DNA and holography. These approaches need extensive engineering work to commercialize at scale, but Russinovich said real-world data growth makes a compelling case for these new technologies. Microsoft had already made some prototypes by 2019, but we got to see more of it in 2020.
We are producing a lot more data than we're capable of storing today. We think that to put a dent on the problem, we need a radical new solution. And so we're looking at DNA as one such solution.
And one of the reasons that we're using DNA is its density is orders of magnitude higher than anything that exists today. Its reliability and resiliency, and then it has relevancy. We think that as long as there are humans alive, we'll care about reading our own DNA. And that means that we'll have a storage format that will be with us that will always be relevant.
We have been working on using DNA for data storage for several years now, but the process so far has been incredibly manual. There are literally people moving around with pipettes in their hands. So the only way we're going to make DNA data storage scale up to be usable and go mainstream is by automating it. And what we've done with the project that you're going to learn more about now, is showing that it's possible to automate the entire process from bits to molecules and back to bits.
The writing process takes your data file and encodes those ones and zeros into ACs, Ts, and Gs. Those ACs, Ts, and Gs are actually what gets sent to the device itself. Every base that flows into the column incorporates itself onto a strand of DNA. So once all the DNA bases have been incorporated into the strands on the column, the strands need to be removed from the column. So we pump a chemical mixture into the column, which frees them from their solid support and pushes them into a liquid storage bottle. So once we decide to read the data off the DNA, the read master mix is applied to the DNA storage pool. That master mix prepares the DNA to be read. Now that the DNA is readable, it gets pumped into the read device, where it gets translated into ACs, Ts, and Gs sequences the computer can understand. Those sequences then get decoded back into ones and zeros. Moving into the future, what we'd like to do is move fluids around in a more intelligent way, which is accomplished by the Purple Drop project.
The amount of data being generated is really escaping our grasp, said Russinovich in that conference. And he said that there are some types of data that we simply won't be able to efficiently store with today's technologies. This is where they are exploring novel ways to store data efficiently and at very high scale to close the gap. As per Russinovich, DNA storage is sustainable, it's organic, and it's durable. Also, it lasts hundreds of thousands of years and up to millions of years. On Earth, we have found 700,000-year-old biological DNA still intact. So stored under the right conditions, DNA can survive virtually forever. In a DNA system, data is stored in a liquid solution containing DNA and read using systems that can combine electronic and molecular components. Microsoft DNA Storage Initiative uses synthetic DNA created by a company called Twist Biosciences rather than repurposing DNA from humans or animals. One does not have to fear creation of strange creatures when you store your holiday pictures in DNA. This is because the DNA will be in inert fluid and it will not be performing any function other than storing the data. Now, to conceptualize how such a system may work, I would like to show you a schematic. If you look at the schematic here, you can see that we can take data in its current forms of ones and zeros and use a driver to convert it into C, A, T, and G. This is then converted to C, A, T, and G and can be sent to a device that is capable of writing those letters to a strand of DNA and flushing it on completion into a liquid solution for storage. And in order to read the DNA storage, we need a driver that can read the contents of a DNA strand and convert the C, A, T, and G's into ones and zeros and return the resulting data. When I reflect on my own career, I had started off in the 80s, and at that time I had learned serial programming with C language. Then later on, when C++ arrived, I had to grapple with the concept of object-oriented programming. It was a very different paradigm, and it took me a while to understand. While I look at DNA storage and remember the concepts of object-oriented programming, it seems so natural. An object has data as well as the program to act on the data. It takes input and returns an output. It has inheritance properties, and so on. It's almost like a human system. Could it be possible that we may have intelligent computers in the future with the molecular components consisting of DNA storage and logic and data that could also perform functions and execute it through electronic components of the computer? It's quite possible. Right now, the idea is to store DNA in inert liquid so that it is not activated. But in future, there is a good possibility that if the DNA was stored in a certain kind of liquid environments, it could perform functions just like it does in our body. So maybe that possibility is there somewhere down the line. And as a Trekkie, this brings memories of the bioneural gel packs that formed the biological computer used in Janeway's Starfleet. So those kind of science fiction things are now becoming more of a reality. So it's really exciting time to be alive. And now as an investor, I find that this is another good reason to stay invested in Microsoft, as they are thinking on providing us database capabilities for the future. Nobody else is doing it right now to the best of my knowledge. I checked out Oracle, it's not working on any such initiative to the best of my knowledge. This also showed that Microsoft is still a visionary company and continuing to push the borders and or boundaries. And I think that's a very good characteristic in a company that doesn't rest on its laurels and continues to push forward. So I'm looking forward to exciting new developments in this field. It's not going to happen tomorrow or next year, but in the next 4 to 5 years, I think we should start seeing systems that are capable of being used by at least scientists and bigger corporations, if not people like you and I. Just remember the days of the cell phone. The initial cell phone was a very clunky, huge thing, and it was very cumbersome to carry around. And now we have got small cell phones which are so easy to put in your pocket and just go wherever you want, and it has got more functions than the clunky cell phone that we had when cell phone was first introduced. So I'm thinking that with more research from Microsoft and Wyss Institute, this technology is only going to become much less expensive, more accessible, much more compact, and well designed. With that, my friends, I'd like to bring this video to an end. A shout out to Ishkadish for this video idea. And if you like this video, please do not hesitate to put a like out there. It helps the channel. And if you're not yet subscribed, please subscribe and help us grow this channel. Thanks and have a great day. Bye for now.